It's time for 515 Fantasy Football.
I know football. Are you ready for some football?
Domination on Sundays begins with listening to these guys on Thursdays.
You ready for this?
Over 40 years of fantasy football experience between them.
Yeah!
One is a proud veteran of the United States Marine Corps, husband and father, entering his 19th year of fantasy competition. Brian Eikenberry. The other, also a proud husband and father, is one of the winningest fantasy minds in the state. Celebrating 25 years of excellence, Andy Hall.
Let's get the game on!
It's showtime. The 515 Fantasy Football Show with your hosts, Andy Hall and Brian Eikenberry.
Welcome to an abbreviated version of the 515 Fantasy Football Show. Andy Hall flying solo this week. Brian and I both actually have some work-related matters that need attention. So not that we're completely leaving you out in the cold, but it is going to be a solo show here today for you. And you're getting it a little bit early, too, which doesn't suck. But anyway, we appreciate you, as always, taking a listen to our show. Got the best intel around, and we're going to try to help guide you through the mess. And let's face it, week number 6 was a mess. If 5 was brutal, 6 was maybe worse. I mean, we lost Aaron Rodgers. Are you kidding me right now? Some other notable injuries, Emmanuel Sanders. We saw Leonard Fournette get dinged up a bit. I mean, let's put it this way. In a season where Aaron Rodgers, your consensus preseason number 1 fantasy quarterback, is down and perhaps out for the majority of the rest of the season, if not all of it, you lose David Johnson in week 1, the consensus overall number 1 fantasy player, not just running back, and you lose Odell Beckham Jr. for the rest of the year. I mean, that is a brutal set of circumstances. And we're just trying to wade through the mess here at this point. So we're going to do our best here in getting you through these week 7 games here in just a bit. I've got the breakdowns all figured out. I've got some grades on some fantasy relevant players. As you've come to expect, we do the work. There is no question about it, getting you the best fantasy intel you can get. Invite you to like us on Facebook, 515 Fantasy Football. We're also on Twitter at 515 Fantasy. I'm Andy at Andy Hall Radio. Brian is at IkeFFB. That's IKEFFB. And we invite you, as always, to hit us up anytime there's ever something you need. And typically we just give you answers, and not give you like a whole lot of intel, So if you're looking for that sort of thing, a little more in-depth fantasy help with your roster, Brian and I have just the thing. It's Patreon. Okay, Patreon.com. Search 515 Fantasy Football, and you'll find different levels which we can help you out for a little bit of financial help from you to us. All right, let's begin with the Thursday night matchup, Kansas City at Oakland. On the Chiefs side, got to say, love Kareem Hunt. I've loved Kareem Hunt all year long, but he's great here, an easy A grade for me. The Raiders are a bottom half pass defense. I think there's a lot to like about Alex Smith, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce as well, but Kareem Hunt, I do see the offense running literally through him in this matchup. Great start for him. For the Raiders, one would think this is another prime spot for Marshawn Lynch. We've seen this before, though, like last week, right? When he faced the league's worst run defense, the Chargers, and did virtually nothing. 13 rushes, 63 yards, targeted twice in the passing game, caught 0 balls. No question Lynch is what he is, a 10 to 15 touch per game guy. And once he gets that, he's pretty much done. C-plus grade, because I'm quickly losing faith that he'll have that breakout game with 20 to 25 touches and multiple scores, seeming less likely with each passing week. Derek Carr, on the other hand, is an A grade for me. Michael Crabtree, a solid start as usual. Amari Cooper, he's a flex play until we see him show up. Unfortunately, you're sort of stuck with him. But I want to say in this matchup, with Kansas City having some trouble there in the secondary, in the defensive backfield, Amari Cooper could be one of those kind of sneaky plays. I know he's been on the bench for you past couple of weeks. At least we've told you to put him on the bench. I think this week you can sneak him in that flex spot, and he might surprise you. At least I've got my fingers crossed on this. Jared Cook is a C grade. The Chiefs haven't yet allowed a tight end score, so you can probably find a better option elsewhere. Let's move on to Tampa Bay at Buffalo, all these Sunday games. Begin with Tampa. The passing game, Jameis Winston, no better than a B grade against a tough Bills secondary that has given up only 2 passing scores all year, while their interception count is currently at 8. And that's if Jameis Winston even plays. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he wouldn't fare any better. He's a C grade at best if it's him. I have heard reports that Jameis Winston, despite the AC issue in his throwing shoulder, could give it a go this weekend, so we'll keep a close eye on that. Mike Evans in play as a B+ because they'll see a ton of targets no matter who's under center. Desean Jackson's a B-, and Cameron Brate facing a defense like the Chiefs that hasn't given up a tight end score yet in 2017. He's a C+. The reason why he's a C+ is because Cameron Brate has scored in every single game thus far. Or giving you 80 yards. And that's notable at a position where you're seeing an awful lot of volatility this year and not a whole lot of consistency. So Cameron Brate, despite what looks like a pretty tough matchup on paper, he's probably still going to be in your starting lineup. Doug Martin, the only back worth mentioning, he's a B grade because I believe he'll get a lot of touches in a game that should be competitive throughout. The Bills, not a whole lot to like here. Tyrod Taylor in a plus matchup. He is a B grade, maybe a B+ if he gives you some rushing yards. LaShawn McCoy is a B+ despite losing short yardage work to Mike Tolbert. Surprisingly, he's scoreless through week 6. I maybe just back off and give him a B grade here. Mike Tolbert, same story as last year with these Bills. I just don't know what to make of it. LaShawn McCoy, if they just give him a shot inside the 5-yard line, maybe it'll yield positive results, or certainly more positive than they'd had. Receivers, I like Brandon Tate a little bit. He's your dart throw here. He scored back in week 5 before their bye week. I don't know if Jordan Matthews is going to be back in the lineup this week. It could be next week before we see him back in action. So not a whole lot to like, especially on the passing side for the Bills. Rushing, not so bad. Tampa's pretty awful in that respect. Start with the Panthers, the Carolina-Chicago game. Cam Newton, solid B grade against a middle-of-the-road Bears defense in the Windy City. I like that. From what we saw last week, it appears as though he's more willing to run the ball than he was initially this season. Jonathan Stewart is on the bench, but I do like Christian McCaffrey enough to consider him as a running back 2 flex guy against a Bears team that's been gouged recently by dual threat guys. Receivers, easy to roll out. Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess, both are fine starts here. Even Ed Dixon, I give him a C grade and worth a look if you're in a pinch at the tight end position. Over to the Bears, Mitchell Trubisky remains on the bench for me and should for you as well if you even have him rostered. Just not enough there yet. Receivers, probably avoiding everybody not named Zach Miller. The Panthers have allowed 4 tight end touchdowns on the season. The running game, it's all about Jordan Howard, who gets a B grade here. Tough matchup on paper. Carolina only allowing 83 rushing yards per contest, have allowed only 3 scores on the ground all year. But as we've seen with Jordan Howard, he gets stronger as the game goes on. And if they don't have to completely abandon the running game, that's a very good thing for Jordan Howard. Tennessee at Cleveland. First, the Titans. I'm starting pretty much everyone with a pulse, including Marcus Mariota, who's an A grade. Browns are terrible against the pass. Better against the run, so I'm giving DeMarco Murray a B grade in the hopes that he gets a lot of volume here due to a positive game script. Last week, it was a pretty even split between Murray and Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry's going to get some play here. So if I'm giving Murray a B, I'll give Henry a C+. He's not the starter, but I do like him a little bit here. He does have some touchdown upside as well. Pass catchers, I like Rashard Matthews an awful lot in this spot. 14 touchdowns through the air given up by Cleveland. Matthews, an A grade. Tight end Delaney Walker, a B, and Eric Decker, a C+, because, he's still got a pulse, barely. The Browns, short and sweet. Crowell is a C grade. Duke Johnson, not much better, a C+. Receivers, I don't care. Quarterback, don't care. Bad time to own stock in Browns in fantasy. I'll say that. Near complete dumpster fire there. We thought we had seen the worst of it with the New York Giants, but apparently it's not as bad as everybody thought it might be, judging by their Sunday night performance last week. How about that? What the hell happened to the Denver Broncos? I mean, you're in your own stadium. You're at home. And you let a Giants team like that. I mean, they're pulling scraps off the practice squad. And Orleans Darkwa. I mean, come on. Wow. We'll get to that here in just a bit. New Orleans at Green Bay. On the Saints side, you're starting nearly everyone. Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, Michael Thomas, all excellent starts despite the road game. Alvin Kamara. Continue to like him a lot in PPR leagues, but especially when the Saints are forced to play catch-up. And I'm not sure that'll be the case in this matchup, so I'm giving him a C+. Willie Snead is a B grade. Kobe Fleener gets a C. The Packers going to lean on the ground game. Strange as it sounds. Play time management and keep Brees and company off the field as much as they can. Brett Hundley isn't worth a look. Ty Montgomery emerged from last week's loss no more banged up than he was, so he's a start, though only a B- in this matchup. The Saints have actually been pretty good against the run this year. Aaron Jones mixes in, negating his and Montgomery's upside. I'll give him a C. Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams, both solid starts, though not nearly as valuable as they would be with Rodgers in the lineup. And this is something to keep in mind when you lose somebody like Aaron Rodgers. The focus is on the player himself, but in the fantasy world, we're focusing on all the players around him. So everybody gets bumped down from where they would normally be, where Nelson would probably be an A start in the Saints matchup. He's now a B+. Adams, I give a B grade to. Cobb is a B-. Bennett, I'm leaving on the bench. He's having all kinds of trouble reeling in passes no matter who's throwing them. Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Going to keep a close eye on Leonard Fournette, but early indications are that he'll play this coming weekend. Expect another heavy workload, though I am concerned he may break down again. Still, an excellent every-week guy for your lineup. Chris Ivory, a guy that should be rostered in case Fournette does need to miss some time. Blake Bortles, a B- against a Colts secondary that is bottom third against the pass. Marquise Lee, I'll give him a B grade. Allen Hurns, a C+ because he does still possess a scoring threat from time to time. And if you're in need of a guy, some of us are with all the injuries and the bye weeks, you could do worse considering the matchup here is pretty good. And Allen Hurns is probably available on your waiver wire. Colts side, Jacoby Brissett, a barely starting grade of C. Jacksonville notoriously good against the pass, not so much against the run. So I'm giving Frank Gore a B grade this week. Jags allow over 5 yards per carry, have given up the second most rushing yards this season. Marlon Mack will also get some looks, so he's a flex option, a C+. Aside from T.Y. Hilton, who I'm giving a B- to this week in a really tough matchup, nobody else worth a spot in your starting lineup as far as the passing game goes. Baltimore at Minnesota, short and sweet on the Ravens side, not looking at Flacco or any members of the passing game. Vikings are elite in that respect. Running game, I guess you could consider Alex Collins. I mean, I'll give him a C+. Buck Allen, I'll give a C grade too. I don't think either has a tremendous chance to produce much fantasy goodness this week. If I had to choose between the two, I don't know. I guess I'd give it to the banger. Give it to Alex Collins. The Vikings, another week of Case Keenum. For me, he's just all right this week. B- grade. Baltimore actually top 10 unit against the pass. Stephon Diggs may or may not play. If he does, I'm plugging him in as a C+. Adam Thielen is a solid B for me. And Kyle Rudolph is an A grade. The Ravens are tied with the Giants. 6 touchdowns allowed to the tight end position on the year. Historically bad. As far as the running game goes, another stellar start for Jet McKinnon, who is an A. Latavius Murray may get some scraps, but I'm not looking to start him here despite a really bad Baltimore front seven coming to town. Arizona at the Los Angeles Rams. A lot of reasons to love this matchup from a fantasy perspective. For the Cardinals, Carson Palmer is a B, taking on a Rams defense that ranks right in the middle in terms of yards allowed through the air. 8 passing scores given up this year, which isn't a great number, but could be worse. Avoid turnovers. He'll have a decent day. Adrian Peterson gets another cake matchup. And now that we've seen that Arizona plans to give him the ball a lot, and B, Adrian ain't washed up yet, I like him a lot here. And I'll be the first to admit, and there were a lot of us this past week, we were absolutely dead wrong on Adrian Peterson. He gets an A grade this week. Unfortunately, the emergence of AD spells bad news for Andre Ellington when the cards are up. His value only in PPR leagues and only when Arizona trails typically. C grade at best this week. Larry Fitzgerald's a B+. Jaron and John Brown both B- in a neutral matchup. Over to the Rams, Jared Goff is a B grade for me. I think he's ready for this one, which isn't as tough a matchup as many are thinking. Arizona has actually allowed the 5th most passing yards, the 2nd most passing scores this year. Aside from Patrick Peterson, their secondary is downright dreadful. I think Peterson follows Sammy Watkins around majority of the time, so Watkins I'll give a C+ to. Cooper Kupp is a B+, and Robert Woods is a B. Woods is likely the more targeted guy, but Kupp has the touchdown upside you're looking for, and Todd Gurley is a B grade. The Cardinals only allow 3.3 yards per carry, less than 100 yards per game, and have only given up 4 rushing scores on the season. New York Jets at Miami. First, the Jets. Tough sledding this week for Elijah McGuire, Matt Forte, Bilal Powell combination, whoever it happens to be. You're probably not starting any of them because they're all just kind of like cannibalizing each other's fantasy value. Miami has allowed the 3rd fewest rushing yards on the season, only 3 scores on the ground. Therefore, another opportunity to fire up Josh McCown in the vaunted Jets passing game, I guess. McCown is a B grade. Miami are a top 12 unit against the pass, but aren't getting many turnovers. Receivers, I think Jermaine Kearse is again a decent dart throw like he was last week. He was my bargain bin pick. Give him a B grade. Jeremy Curley, a C+. Not totally buying the week 6 hype, but not ignoring him either. It is Jeremy Curley. He'll pop from time to time. Austin Safarian Jenkins is probably the safest play this week as far as his fantasy floor is concerned. A B grade for ASJ, whose week 6 should have been a lot bigger than it was. On the Dolphins side, still going to leave Jay Cutler where he belongs on your bench. Jets are decent on the year against the pass, but really bad against the run. So I'm giving Jay Ajayi an A grade here, banking on high volume like we saw last week. Boy, if we could keep seeing those touch numbers, man, week in and week out, Ajayi's going to be just fine. Jarvis Landry is a B grade in PPR formats only. If Devontae Parker plays, he's a C+ dart throw. If he doesn't go, Kenny Stills is your replacement C+. And here's another guy that's probably available on your waiver wire. And if you're in need of a guy, for whatever reason, bad matchups, injuries, bye weeks, maybe consider Kenny Stills, even though, yes, Jay Cutler still under center in Miami for some unexplained reason. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Begin with the Bengals and quarterback Andy Dalton, who gets a C grade here on the road against the league's second-best secondary. The Steelers allow only 154 passing yards per game on average, have given up only 4 passing scores. They also get after the quarterback, and considering Cincy's O-line issues, Dalton's in trouble in this one, is my thought. His receivers, A.J. Green, really the only one I'm starting. He's only a C+. The running game, Joe Mixon is the lead dog here, and considering the Steelers allow 4.7 yards per carry, nearly 120 rushing yards per game, I kind of like the rookie in this spot. A B grade for Mixon, assuming that the coaching staff doesn't get cute with their starting lineup and Jeremy Hill is out there running all over the place. It just shouldn't happen at this point. If it does, that coaching staff should probably lose their jobs. I don't know how they keep them anyway, but whatever. Giovanni Bernard coming off a bye, only a C grade in this matchup. Jeremy Hill, I'm just going to leave on the bench because, ugh. As far as the Steelers go, the only team better against the pass through the first 6 weeks of the season are the Bengals. Again, just coming off a bye, but they've collected, or allowed, I should say, the least total passing yards, only 5 touchdowns to go with the 4 INTs they've collected. Big Ben is a B grade only because he's at home here. Antonio Brown is in your lineup regardless. He's a B+. But the rest of the Pittsburgh pass catchers are on the bench. Le'Veon Bell, also a no-brainer here, despite the Bengals being a top 12 unit against the run, allowing less than 4 yards per carry, only 3 rushing scores thus far. Bell starts here with a B+ grade because he can also catch passes. Denver at the Los Angeles Chargers. First, the Broncos, who clearly lost their way in Week 6. My thought is they'll right the ship by getting back to what they do best, and that is run the ball, and do it against the league's worst run defense, the Chargers. They've given up the most yards in the league, over 150 per game, in fact, and 5 touchdowns on the ground. C.J. Anderson should get back to a normal workload here. He gets my A grade. Probably enough to go around for Jamal Charles, too. You know he's going to mix in. I'll give him a C here. Passing game, and I should mention Devontae Booker, too, even though I don't want to. I don't even know what the guy's doing on the field. C.J. Anderson's the guy. If C.J. Anderson's banged up, I understand. Then it's Devontae Booker, but I don't understand why they tried to mix him in so much last week. I'm just leaving him on the bench for now. Trevor Simeon, gross. C grade at best. The Chargers are top 10 against the pass. I don't think Simeon will need to do a lot in this game. Emmanuel Sanders expected to miss time. Demaryius Thomas has disappointed. He's only a B- this week. And Benny Fowler, the Week 1 waiver wire wonder that has since disappeared, probably reappears in the absence of Sanders. I'll give him a barely starting grade of C here. No need to reach for A.J. Derby or Jeff Hireman. Over to the Chargers. Denver's still a top 3 pass defense, so I'm scaling back any enthusiasm for Phillip Rivers. He's a C. Pass catchers, Keenan Allen likely sees a lot of Aqib Talib, so he's a C+. Tyrell Williams also a C+, just not a great matchup, and rookie Mike Williams on the bench. One guy I do think could make some noise is tight end Hunter Henry. The Broncos have allowed the 8th most receiving yards to the position and 3 touchdowns. I'll give Henry a B grade this week. On to Seattle at the New York Giants. Start with the Seahawks. Aside from Janoris Jenkins, the Giants have been bad against the pass and against the run. Russell Wilson is a B+ for me this week, despite the cross-country road trip to hostile environs. Doug Baldwin is a slot guy, likely avoids Jenkins by and large, but I'll give him a B grade anyway because I think he'll see a little bit of Janoris. Jimmy Graham is an easy A against a Giants team that has given up at least one score to a tight end every single week this year. The running game, it doesn't appear anyone's really grabbing the job. Thomas Rawls, Eddie Lacy, kind of a coin flip, though I'd choose Rawls if I absolutely had to. CJ Prosise, J.D. McKissick, nobody knows how this backfield will shake out, so I'm completely avoiding it if I can. The Giants, I'm benching everyone except for Orleans Darkwa, who looked pretty good actually running last week, faces a Seattle defense that isn't nearly as good as you think they are against the run, allowing nearly 5 yards per carry. Darkwa gets a B- this week, and Evan Ingram, he's a C grade. You can likely do better, but I'm throwing it out there because somebody has to catch the ball, as famously heard by Mr. Brian Eikenberry time and time again. Let's move on to the Sunday night matchup, and I'm loving this one. It's going to be a fun watch, I think. Atlanta at New England. For the Falcons, Matt Ryan is an A grade. I have a feeling this game will be very back and forth, lots of scoring, considering the defenses on both sides are beatable. The Patriots have given up the most passing yards by over 300. Think about that. We are now 6 weeks into the NFL regular season. The Patriots have yet to have their bye week, so that's 6 games. And the next team down in terms of passing yards allowed is 300 yards behind the New England Patriots. And they're tied for the most passing scores allowed at 14 with Cleveland, who's awful. This is an easy A for Ryan. Don't overthink it. I know he hasn't been great lately. Julio Jones has to be a big question mark lately, though. I am still rolling him out with confidence. You kind of have to, don't you? Love the matchup. Should be an A-level start, but I'll peel back some enthusiasm and I'll say A-. All right? And then, a lot of that's just the red zone targets. We hear a lot of that. It's more the end zone targets than just like the basic red zone. Because, yeah, like if you get a target at the 19-yard line, that's considered a red zone target. But tell me how many times he's been targeted in and near the end zone. It's not more than one this year. I can tell you that. Taylor Gabriel is a C+. Should be considered in your flex spot. This kind of feels like one of those matchups that Taylor Gabriel could explode. Austin Hooper also in play here, a B+ against a New England defense that has allowed 5 tight end touchdowns on the season, tied for second most in the league. Devontae Freeman is a B+ grade. The Pats have looked much improved over the past couple of weeks against the run. Of course, Freeman also catches passes, so he should be in your lineup. Tevin Coleman is kind of a dart throw. I can't figure out his usage week to week, so I'll give him a C+. You can probably do a lot worse than a guy like Tevin Coleman who figures to mix in. On the real quick, I know you're going to ask me about Marvin Hall, right? No, you aren't going to ask me about Marvin Hall. On the Patriots side, Tom Brady is an A grade. Should be lots of fireworks Sunday night in comparison to the hot garbage we all witnessed between the Giants and Broncos last weekend, right? Brandon Cooks likely sees more targets with Hogan banged up, so I'm giving him a B+, despite a relatively tough matchup against a top 10 pass defense. Danny Amendola gets a B grade, assuming Hogan can't go. And Rob Gronkowski is an A grade no matter who he's facing. The Falcons have been pretty good against the tight end position this year. Haven't allowed a score, but that may change on Sunday night. It is Gronk after all. Washington at Philadelphia. This is your Monday nighter. For the Redskins, Kirk Cousins is a B grade despite facing an Eagles secondary that gives up the second most passing yards on the season. They've only allowed 9 passing scores. They also tend to fare much better at home and get after the quarterback, creating pressure that forces bad throws. I like Cousins and would start him, but wouldn't expect a big game out of him, or his pass catchers for that matter. Terrell Pryor. What the heck to do with this guy? He still hasn't really had the breakout I think we were all expecting in the preseason. He's a C+ this week at best. Josh Doctson, it's come out recently that the coaching staff there in Washington wants to make a more concerted effort to get him the ball more, get him more involved in the game plan. I think we've heard this before from the Redskins coaching staff in terms of Jamison Crowder, but I think I actually believe it here as far as Doctson goes. He's a B-. Jordan Reed's a B+. Chris Thompson, the most fantasy-relevant running back of the bunch, giving him a C grade against the Eagles' defense, currently ranked second against the run. He was given plenty of opportunity to run last week and did not look good doing it. Of course, he can catch passes, so there's a PPR angle to Thompson, but his hot start has cooled significantly, and so should your expectations. On the Phillies side, Carson Wentz is almost always a good start considering the volume. Whether or not Josh Norman is back on the field in Week 7, Cousins is a solid start, giving him a B+. Of the pass catchers, Alshon Jeffrey without Norman in the lineup is an A-. With Norman, he's a B at best because he will be following him around, I feel. Nelson Aguilar is a B-. Zach Ertz, always an A for the backs. LeGarrette Blount is a B-. The Skins are top 5 against the run. Only 4 touchdowns have been scored on them via the ground. Not sure who else will be on the field for the Eagles, but chances are I wouldn't have a starting grade on them anyway this week. Again, a reminder, with Brian out, it's just me flying solo, your Week 7 edition of the 515 Fantasy Football Show. Normally, we're on the radio. This week, it's digital only and an abbreviated rendition of the show. We do invite you to like us on Facebook, 515 Fantasy Football. We're on Twitter, at 515 Fantasy. I'm at Andy Hall Radio. Brian is at Ike FFB. That's IKEFFB. Our Bargain Bin segment is sponsored by our friends at Twisted Vine Brewing Company on Westtown Parkway in West Des Moines. Online at twistedvinebrewery.com. 30 beers on tap, 25 of those brewed on site. And what's really cool, you walk in and you can see the vats. There's actually like a schematic that you can look at and see exactly how the process works from step by step. And the staff there, Kat included, who we deal with on Sunday mornings, is absolutely wonderful, very helpful, very knowledgeable. They know beer. There's no question. But they also know wine. Wine on site as well at Twisted Vine. They got some pizza, some popcorn. Come on by on Sunday mornings and hang with us. They open their doors there. Twisted Vine starting at 10:30. And we, either Brian or myself, sometimes both, are there to help you set your lineups and talk fantasy football with you. I appreciate everybody that's come out the past couple of weeks to say hello to me. The Bargain Bins. All right, 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 pass catcher, and Brian is out this week, so I'm just giving you mine. For Week 7, my quarterback is Jared Goff, LA Rams. He's owned in less than half of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues and gets an Arizona Cardinals defense that gave up 346 yards and 3 touchdowns to Bucs quarterbacks last week, 304 yards and 4 touchdowns to Carson Wentz back in Week 5. He's going up against a notoriously solid front 7, may limit some rushing opportunities for the for the Rams, leaving the super sophomore Jared Goff dropping back more often and looking for one of his young and talented pass catchers. So Jared Goff is a decent dart throw this week. At the running back position, I'm taking Marlon Mack, Indianapolis Colts. Inexplicably, he's owned in less than half of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. Barring injury to Frank Gore, Mack is still a backup change of pace kind of guy in Indianapolis, but with those opportunities against a Jaguars defense that allows more than 5 yards per carry, nearly 150 per game on the ground to opposing backs, I smell a super sleeper opportunity for Marlon Mack in your flex spot in Week 7. My pass catcher this week is Cooper Kupp to go along with my Jared Goff call at quarterback. There's a very good chance the one bright spot in the Cardinals secondary, Patrick Peterson, locks onto Sammy Watkins in coverage, leaving Kupp and Robert Woods to run routes all over Justin Bethel and Traymon or Brandon Williams, all of which are beatable and downright awful, to be quite honest. Bethel, in particular, gets burned on a weekly basis. And I think I see Woods as the bigger target and yardage guy on Sunday, Kupp as the touchdown threat. Kupp will probably get Bethel in coverage, and if he does, this will be a worthwhile dart throw for you. Cooper Kupp, the talented rookie for the LA Rams, is my bargain bin pick at the pass-catching position. Finally, the 515 Fantasy Football Listener League is presented by our friends at Iowa Firecracken. Iowa-owned, Iowa-operated, America-approved. Find them online at firecracken.com and on Facebook and Twitter at iFirecracken. Come December 1st, and that's, a month and a half away at this point, so circle it on your calendars, friends. If you're in the market for beautiful things that go boom, we hope you'll buy from 3 local guys that we happen to be buddies with, and these guys are big fantasy football fans as well as fireworks fans and freedom fans. Yes, Maddie and the boys taking good care of you there. A couple different locations, one of them in Windsor Heights here in central Iowa. December 1st, beautiful things that go boom, back on sale. Iowa Firecracken is who you should check out. Week 6 in the Listener League was another tough one for me. I was complaining about this on Twitter. The fact that I'm the number 2 guy in terms of score, like overall points scored, yet I'm 2-4 in this league. That's got to turn around, you would think. I ran into a tough Purple People Eaters team this week, losing 107.30.32 to 97.60. Brian's team came out on top, barely, over the lovable losers, Oink, 71.22 to 64.54. Taco Corp, another big win for him. Keeping pace with the Purple People Eaters. taking out Big Willie style. This was the 2-3 matchup this week. 116.08 to 81.82. Rough week for Big Willie. Phillips Bolo tie over Steve's Annihilators. Another case of a team that scores a lot of points but just runs into a very high-scoring team every single week are Steve's Annihilators. He's in the same boat I am. And Phillips Bolo tie comes out on top. Sort of an upset here. 105.54 to 91.32. I'm sorry, 105.54 to 87.78. Looking at the wrong numbers there. Petty and the Jets. Big win this week. Another sort of mild upset over the artist formerly known as Comb the Desert. I refuse to call you by your new team name. I know it's totally ripped off from the league, and it's kind of annoying for me to say EBDBB&B, okay? There you go. I said it without even practicing. Petty and the Jets, 95.28 to 73.82. And Matty, our boy at Boomin', does good business over Bell Cow Ricky this week, 101.88 to 78.08. And there you have it for your Week 6. Week 7 upcoming. I'm hoping for better news this week as I take on a Phillips Bolo tie squad who's had a rough go thus far this season. So I've got my fingers crossed here. I need a win really badly. Big Willie Styles taking on Brian's team. Brian, he really needs to give his team a name. I mean, come on, Brian's team. Give me a break. So lame, right? Boomin' and Taco Corp head-to-head this week. That should be a good one to watch. Petty and the Jets, Steve Annihilators doing battle. The Purple People Eaters looking to remain unbeaten as they take on the artist formerly known as Comb the Desert. And Oink trying to get his first win on the season. Can he do it over the Moo Cow guy? We shall see. I got my fingers crossed for you. Oink. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I'm sure so does Brian. We both, as I've said earlier, had some work-related things going on this week, so the normal radio show isn't on, but this is digital, so if you want to go back and listen to any part of it, you certainly can on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. ESPNDesMoines.com is our home on the net, our radio home. So we thank you for listening. We wish you the best of luck in Week 7. For myself, Andy Hall, this is 515 Fantasy Football.